welcome to my show, Searching for Integrity. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, integrity deficit disorder. Today we have an author, Cindy Perlin, and she brought her book with her. And are you there, Cindy?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Very good. Hi, yes. Let's start where you'd want to start if you were me. How's that?
Well, I guess what I'd like people to know is I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in private practice in the Albany, New York area for over 30 years. I'm also a chronic pain survivor. I started having pain problems when I was 25, 46 years ago. And it was hard to find help. So I became very interested in when I finally did find help and things that helped me resolve my pain. I became really interested in helping other people do that. So besides my clinical practice, where I specialized in helping people with pain, I wrote a book a few years ago, The Truth About Chronic Pain Treatments, the best and worst strategies for becoming pain-free. And now my big project is my website, the Alternative Pain Treatment Directory, where people can find over 300 blogs, natural pain relief products, and a directory of providers who are alternative, who can help with chronic pain, alternatives to drugs and surgery.
Well, I'll have a look at that and see that it can be of fortitude, I believe. I have, this is 23. This other was 15 years ago. I had a knee replacement, and that was not fun, no matter what I did or not. And I got to a point to where I always thought I was okay. Everything's fine with me. And my wife keeps telling me, "You're taking too many pills. You're taking too many pills." And I'm saying, "No, I'm not. Here's the number right here." So luckily enough, we have a friend then that came over and was giving me the pep. Here's what you got to do. And I said to him, "Nothing wrong with me." And I said, "The only thing that bothers me is my skin. My skin keeps rolling on me. It's funny with my skin." And he said, That's why you got the drugs, dummy. You got to cut that back. Got to cut it back." I just took it away. Everything. I finished the rest of it with me and myself and only. I didn't take them anymore.
So what kind of pills were you on? Do you remember?
Yeah, sure. Let me think now. It's what are the higher ones? My wife would remember. She was the one always telling about it.
Are we talking about opioids, or are we talking about other kinds of drugs?
Other kinds, not the opioids.
So gabapentin or Lyrica, one of those, or Cymbalta. They've been using antidepressants for pain. There's different anti-inflammatory drugs.
Now, are those opioid drugs? Are those some of that as well?
Well, opioids would be Vicodin, OxyContin, hydrocodone.
That's it. Oxycontin.
Hydrocodone.
That's it.
Oh, OxyContin. Yeah, that's a extended release opioid, and people sometimes get into big trouble with that.
Yeah. Well, my doc friend just says, "Take these, give them to Alex." That's my wife. So she was glad for me to do that. Yeah, she did not in any way liked my behavior, and I kept saying to people, "There's nothing wrong with me. I'm doing just fine." And then I don't know that. I did it.
What kind of behavior were was she complaining about?
Um, she's in the other room. I should be
You're
yeah.
not remembering. Some of those drugs, and I know it's particularly true of antidepressant drugs, is they reduce your self-awareness. You're not even aware of how poorly you're doing because it sort of, inhibits
Right.
that part of the brain that lets you be aware of how you're doing. So just to clarify, you had knee surgery and then after that you stayed on pain meds for a long time?
Long time would be only, I would say 2 or 3 months.
Oh, okay.
That's how I caught it that quick.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that, well, there's a lot of problems with it, but the main thing that people are focusing on these days is that it really only takes about a week for some people to get addicted. And then, it just goes into a spiral where they need more and more, and then they can't get that from the doctor, so they go on the street. And it's particularly serious for people who have both physical and emotional vulnerabilities. Matthew Perry, who was Chandler on Friends, he just recently died. He was given one Vicodin, which is an opioid, after a jet skiing accident. Is very emotionally vulnerable, and he liked the way he felt on it. So I called the doctor the next day and said, "That really worked. Can I have more?" And he got to the point where he's taking 55 Vicodin a day.
Oh, whoa, 55.
55. And eventually what happened was his colon burst because there's opioid induced constipation. And he almost died of that. And then, he was in recovery for a few years. After 20 years of, on and off, what finally stopped him was his colon bursting. They gave him a 2% chance of survival, but he lived. And then he had to have 14 abdominal surgeries. And then he said he was clean and he was out there, talking to other people about getting treatment for addiction. And he just passed away a couple of weeks ago. And I'm pretty sure there was opioids involved, like a relapse. The
Right.
toxicology report isn't back yet, but I just read that his former girlfriend, who was still close to him, said that she believed he had relapsed before he died. So it started with one Vicodin.
It's just amazing. That's just
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I took the advice immediately when they told me that.
Mm-hmm.
And with my wife, I would say, don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing. But when my doc friend looked at me, he said, you got to get off of this. And I believed him right then, stopped. I took everything
Yeah.
off. I think I probably got the same bottles with the same stuff in it somewhere I hid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's other problems with opioids too, like it reduces your immune system response, which can be serious in the elderly. More, a lot of people fall because they're on opioids. It's involved in traffic accidents, something like 23% of traffic accidents. One of the drivers was on opioids. So there's all kinds of problems with them. I'm not a fan. And, one of the
Go ahead.
one of the driving forces behind me writing my book and then starting my website was, well, it's one thing to be in pain. It's another thing to die of your treatment for pain, because so many people were starting to die of overdoses and getting addicted. So, I just felt like it was a crisis situation at this point. And it is. We're losing close to 100,000 people a year to opioid overdoses. So it's a big problem.
I'm not surprised at that because, if you've looked at the sidewalks of San Francisco or Los Angeles, it's everywhere, and it's something that really I don't know that it can be cured because they're not getting the type of help that they need.
Well, once you're in that place, addiction is very hard to overcome. I mean, Matthew Perry spent something like $6 million to get treatment. He was in and out of something like 45 rehabs and 15 or 45 detoxes and 15 rehabs. And still, what he probably died of was opioid addiction. So I think the cure, besides treatment for people who are already addicted, is to give people other things to take for pain, rather than opioids. At the point where they need pain relief, use other methods. So there's things that people can take,
Yes.
if it's just something post-surgical or, an acute injury, sometimes just ibuprofen and or Tylenol is enough and actually provides better pain relief. There's medical marijuana. There's an herb called kratom. And then there's, lots of other kinds of therapies. There's, different kinds of herbal supplements that are helpful. There's, I'm a big fan of red and infrared light therapy, which they're starting to call photobiomodulation. It used to be called cold laser therapy, but because they don't always use lasers now, they call it photobiomodulation. Speeds up healing, reduces pain and inflammation, totally drug-free. There's, different kinds of electrical stimulation that help pain, whether it's acute or chronic, magnetic stimulation. So there's a lot of other things that can be used, exercise, nutrition,
Yep.
that can help with pain. And we have to stop putting everybody on opioids.
Right.
Even as late as 2020, doctors dispensed 143 million prescriptions for opioids.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
my own dentist, I had oral surgery. He gave me opioids afterwards. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you still handing these out? And he was, oh, I'm only giving you a few. I said, sometimes a few is, too many. And he didn't know my history, didn't know if I had a history of addiction. So, they're still being handed out too readily. And I didn't take them. I took ibuprofen and, some of the other things that I use for pain management. I never picked up my prescription because I don't want it. Another issue with opioids when you have acute pain is that the research shows that if you take opioids when you're in acute pain, your pain's more likely to become chronic.
No kidding.
So giving people, opioids post-surgically, it increases the chances they're still going to have chronic pain years down the road.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had another surgery, was a rotator cuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had two surgeries in a period of 4 months, and it again taught me another lesson. I get it from the VA, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And when I changed from Texas to Arizona, they opened me, they showed me how to do this and do that and so forth. And I said, watch out for the x-rays. You got some people that you're training. And the young people were in there, started twisting my arm and my shoulder and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but all this time, I've limited myself to I guess it was a half a tab of tramadol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's considered opioid light. And I don't know if there's a difference in addiction potential or not. And 90% of the people or so don't get addicted when they're given opioids. But we don't know who those 10% are going to be. It could be anybody at any socioeconomic level, any age. The group that's most likely to overdose, to die of an overdose, is white men over 75, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
I could see that. But I also have another solution for me. I don't take those anymore, other than what the half tab does.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I said, it's just risky to give them out. And if there's another alternative, we should be doing it. And you mentioned the VA. what I've noticed about the VA is each VA hospital is like its own fiefdom. They're not uniform in terms of the services that they offer and the quality of the services, but the VA in general has gotten on board in the last few years in terms of using alternative treatments. And they're offering a lot more pain management services other than opioids to veterans. So that's a good trend.
Well, the VA, I was with them for a number of years in Texas. And then just in a couple of years ago, I moved into Tucson, Arizona. And they are different in terms of how they manage. And I began with having good care. I began asking questions in the right way that they could see that, oh, well, we might think of that, you know. And one of those was the half tab.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you something else. And I liked it in here. What did it say? Something about marijuana has never killed anybody.
Right. So we know from old records that marijuana has been used medicinally for over 5,000 years. You know, a Chinese emperor 5,000 years ago wrote about using marijuana. And in all those years, we don't know a single person who overdosed on marijuana. So, you know, right off the bat, just from that standpoint, you know, people talk about harm reduction with opioids. And when they use that term, they're talking about safe injection sites. Real harm reduction is giving people marijuana for pain relief instead of opioids. That would be real harm reduction. Because even though there's some chance of addiction with marijuana, it's more of a psychological addiction. It's easier to withdraw from. Not that many people get addicted. And it actually seems to be a better pain reliever than opioids. And the main problem with it is big business can't make money off of it. You know, anybody can grow their own. Not always legally, but you know, anybody can grow their own. So, you know, there's a lot of resistance to legalizing it. And it's more and more it's becoming legalized in this country. But it's much safer to give people marijuana for pain control, and they don't have to smoke it. You know, you can eat it. You can use it in a topical, you know, if your pain is local. You can vape it, which vaping is heating the marijuana to a point where it the essential ingredients in it are become gases, and you can inhale it, but you're not burning the leaves. So it's less irritating to your lungs and less toxic to your lungs to vape. So you can do that with it. The longest lasting pain relief from marijuana comes from eating it. And if someone's new to edibles, the only thing they need to know is that they take a while to take effect. Like if you smoke it, the effect is immediate. But if you eat it, it takes a while. And sometimes people end up taking too much when they're eating it, because they'll take some and they'll say, I'm not feeling anything. I must not have taken enough. And it can if it's got a high THC level or you're taking a really high dose, it can make you uncomfortable. You know, you could have hallucinations or get anxious. It's not going to kill you.
Right.
You know, you'll just feel uncomfortable for a while. But edibles are actually better for pain because the effect is longer lasting. It takes a longer time to take effect, but then once you have it in your system, it helps for a longer period of time.
I see that I just started CBDs,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just for, ideally for me, it was just like vitamins.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I take it that way too, just as a supplement, because it's got all kinds of health benefits. The other thing you can do with CBD is there's all kinds of topicals that say your knee's bothering you. You can put it on your knee and it will help that localized knee pain. So there's some really good topicals on my website. There's one called Good for Relief that, you know, within seconds you feel better. It's amazing. There's another one that was developed by a guy who has had rheumatoid arthritis since he was very young. And he developed his own CBD formula using nanotechnology. And he had been on prednisone, which is a steroid, for 23 years for his RA. And he was able to replace it with a CBD formula. And, feels great. And he used to get the immunosuppressive shots, and he doesn't have to get them anymore. He's just managing it with the CBD formula that he developed. And his is called Reclaim Labs. They've got a really nice roll-on that I like from that company.
Well, I'm probably going to direct my wife in that direction. She's 62 now.
Uh-huh.
And she's in her hands, completely all in her hands at this point. Can you see my hands?
I can't really see your hands, but do you have it in your hands or just hers?
Just hers. I don't have it in mine.
So that Good for Relief product I was talking about earlier, I had a client who came in and she was in her 60s and she had RH since she was 7. And she had managed it pretty well with diet and exercise. But when she came in to see me, she was having a lot of trouble with her hands. And I gave her some of that Good for Relief stuff, and she put it on her hands. And we could see the swelling go down just looking at her hands.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got another one of those now that compounds it. The way she was working out in the bike at the community center, it was hard to adjust to, and then all of a sudden, her thumb at the base was just 3 times bigger than it should be.
Wow. I wonder if she sprained it, maybe.
Well, she's had the same kind of item since she was 40 or 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
She knew it was coming, but she really can't stop.
Yeah.
I had an aunt that was Aunt Sis, and she was living a miserable life because she couldn't do anything. Nobody could do anything for her, and I was so sad for her. So sad.
So many people just live in chronic pain, and they're at the point where they don't have a life anymore. They stay home all the time. They're afraid to go out and do anything because their pain will get worse. Maybe they're not ambulatory because of the pain anymore. And what frustrates me is that there's so many things that could help, and their doctors don't tell them about them.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Doc.
And I sometimes seem like I'm very negative on doctors, but I think that the vast majority of doctors went into medicine for the right reason. They went into medicine because they really wanted to help people. And, they saw themselves as healers who would make a connection with their patients and lead them to feel better. And the world of medicine does not support that model anymore. Most doctors work for hospitals or big group practices where they're told they have to rush patients through. Their training and education is based on pharmaceuticals and nothing else. So they really are kind of trapped. One of the highest suicide rates among professionals is physicians. And I think it's because they're not doing what they bargained for. This is not what they signed up for. And so many people are coming to them for help, and they know they're not helping.
That's a sad thing.
Yeah. So I'm not blaming the doctors, but I think people need to look beyond doctors to other kinds of practitioners.
Well, of course, absolutely. Tell my audience about how they can find a book, website type of thing, so that they can ultimately get the bends of the book.
Oh, okay. So the book is The Truth About Chronic Pain Treatments, the Best and Worst Strategies for Becoming Pain-Free. And you can find it on Amazon. My website the alternative pain treatment directory is paintreatmentdirectory.com. So paintreatmentdirectory.com. And when you go to the website, you'll see that you can click on the articles and read articles, or click on videos and watch videos. You can click on find a provider and search your area for people like massage therapists, acupuncturists, integrative physicians, naturopaths, other kinds of practitioners who provide pain treatment. And there's also a find natural pain relief products section where you can find the products that I mentioned and many others. There's so much innovation going on in pain treatment, all kinds of devices that can help. So that's the best place. And you can email from that. You can call me from that website. The information is there. And of course, there's just so much information. So
there is, and you'd be very helpful. You do this well, what you're supposed to do.
oh, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here as an author, and I want to tell our listeners, thank you, and tuning in to Searching for Integrity. And I keep thinking they're coming back. They're coming back, and the numbers they give me, they tell me it does. It does.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So my adios begins with so long and happy trails to all. Until we meet again. Thank you very much.